All right, today we are diving headfirst into the world of cryptocurrency. You've probably heard the words Bitcoin, blockchain, all that stuff, but maybe you're not totally sure what it all means. Well, if that's you, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break it all down piece by piece so you have a super clear starting point.
So what is all the hype about, really? Is crypto the future of money? This new digital gold? Or is it just a huge financial bubble that's waiting to pop? Look, it's a complicated topic, for sure, but my goal today is simple: to give you a solid, no-hype foundation so you can understand what's actually going on.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with what crypto even is and how it works under the hood. Then we'll get into Bitcoin and some of the other major coins and figure out why they've become so popular. And, super importantly, we'll talk about how you can get started safely and wrap everything up with an honest look at both the risks and the rewards.
All right, first up, what in the world is cryptocurrency? Let's get right to a nice, simple definition.
Okay, think of it this way. It's money that's 100% digital. No paper bills, no metal coins, nothing you can physically hold. Its security comes from something called cryptography, which is basically just a super advanced way of using codes to keep everything locked down and secure. But here's the absolute game changer. There's no central authority. No bank, no government, no one is in charge. And that's a massive difference from the money we use every single day.
And this slide really shows you that key difference. Traditional money, dollars, euros, you name it, is centralized. It's all controlled by banks and governments. Cryptocurrency, it's decentralized. It's run by this massive global network of computers. That's the whole idea right there.
So you might be thinking, how can money possibly work without a bank in the middle to manage everything? Well, that brings us to our next part. How does this stuff actually work? Let's take a look at the technology that makes it all happen. The engine that powers most of this is something called the blockchain. The easiest way to picture it is like a giant, shared digital notebook. Everyone on the network has a copy. Every single transaction gets recorded as a new entry, and these entries are grouped into blocks. Those blocks are then linked together, forming a chain. And here's the crucial part. Once a block is added to that chain, it's there forever. It can't be changed, it can't be deleted by anyone. So let's just walk through what happens. Say you want to send some crypto to a friend. Step 1, you create that transaction. Step 2, that request gets blasted out to the whole network of computers, and they all check to make sure you actually have the money to send. Step 3, your transaction gets bundled together with a bunch of others into a brand new block. And finally, that new block gets locked up tight and added to the end of the chain, making it a permanent public record. And just like that, your friend has the money. Okay, so now that we've got a grip on the basic tech, let's explore the actual crypto universe, starting, of course, with the one that kicked this whole thing off. Bitcoin. It's the original, the first of its kind. It popped up back in 2009, created by this mysterious person, or maybe a group of people, who just called themselves Satoshi Nakamoto. To this day, nobody knows who they are. Because it was the first, and importantly, it is a limited supply, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. It gets compared to gold a lot, hence the nickname digital gold.
But hey, Bitcoin is not the only game in town, not by a long shot. Everything else is basically called an altcoin, which is just short for alternative coin. And there are literally thousands of them out there, many of which were created to do different things or even improve on Bitcoin's original design.
Let's look at a few of the big ones, because they're not all trying to be digital cash. Ethereum, for example, is more like a global computer that lets people build decentralized apps, kind of like the apps on your phone, but no single company controls them. Then you have something like Ripple, which is designed specifically to help banks send money across borders quickly and cheaply. And Litecoin was one of the first, created to be a faster, lighter version of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is digital gold, Litecoin is often called digital silver. The main point is, they all have different jobs.
All this variety and innovation brings us to a really important question. Why? Why is this stuff so popular? What's the magnetic pull that's drawing in so much global interest?
Well, it usually boils down to a few key things. For a lot of people, it's about the philosophy, freedom and independence from the traditional banking system and governments. That ties right into having total control over your own money. For others, let's be honest, it's an investment with the potential for huge returns. And then there's a whole group of people who are just fascinated by the technology itself. Blockchain is a genuinely new invention with potential that goes way beyond just money. Okay, so let's say you're curious. You're thinking about dipping your toes in the water. How do you actually begin? And even more critically, how do you do it safely? Let's get into your first practical steps.
For almost every beginner, the journey starts on a cryptocurrency exchange. The process is usually pretty simple. First, you sign up on a well-known trusted platform. Second, you'll have to verify your identity. This is a standard security step called KYC, which just stands for Know Your Customer. Third, you link your bank account or a card to add some traditional money. And finally, you just use that money to buy whatever cryptocurrency you've chosen. Now, once you own some crypto, you need a place to store it. And this leads us to probably the single most important saying in this entire space: not your keys, not your coins. All this means is that if you don't control the secret password, your private key, then you don't really truly own your crypto. It's why having your own personal wallet is so important.
You've got two main types of wallets to choose from. First, there are hot wallets. These are basically software, like an app on your phone or a browser extension, and they're always connected to the internet. The huge pro here is convenience. They're super easy to use for sending and receiving crypto often. The con? Security. Being online makes them more vulnerable to hackers, so they're really best for holding small amounts that you plan on actively using.
And the second option is a cold wallet. These are the total opposite. They are completely offline. The most popular kind is a little hardware device. Looks a bit like a USB stick. The pro here is massive. It's the highest level of security you can get against online attacks. The con, of course, is that it's not as convenient for quick transactions. Cold wallets are considered the gold standard for securely storing large amounts of crypto for a long time.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So to wrap this all up, let's just step back and take one final balanced look at the core risks and benefits of diving into the crypto world.
On the plus side, you've got that powerful idea of decentralization and independence. You have total control over your own funds, transaction fees can sometimes be lower, and everything is transparent on the blockchain. But the risks are very, very real. The prices are incredibly volatile. They can swing up or down like crazy. There's a constant risk of scams and hacks. The technology itself can be really complex. And right now, there isn't a lot of the regulation or protection you'd get from a normal bank.
And that really brings us to the big final question. Is cryptocurrency a revolutionary tool for the future that's ready for everyone? Or is it still a wild frontier, mostly for the brave and the tech-savvy? The true answer is probably somewhere in the middle. But now, at least you have the map. You have the foundational knowledge to keep exploring and start to form your own answer.